Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai dai yai dai dai yai dai 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 yai dai dai yai dai 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 yai dai yai dai dai yai dai 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 dai. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I look out, I see a sea of orange. Orange is a very good color to be wearing today. We are so delighted. I'm seeing people I haven't seen in a while. We are thrilled. It is Shabbat. It is Pride Month. Summer is coming. We are wearing orange because we want to do what we can to make our streets safe for people. We have a lot of people here tonight who may not have been here before, who might be here for the first time. And so we want to welcome you into Temple Habonim. If everyone would take just a moment, turn around, find somebody you don't know, greet them, and give them a big hello.
Nice to see you. Now I know you a little bit better. Good? Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom.
Everyone has a handout, and everyone also has a blue siddur. If you can't find a handout, there are some on the empty seats. Make sure you have one of these, as well as a blue siddur. We're going to begin with the first reading in the handout, reading number 1, and Denise Glickman is going to lead us in that. Is the microphone, hold on for the microphone to get to you. When she finishes.
As the sun sinks and the colors of the day turn, we offer a blessing for the twilight. For twilight is neither day nor night, but in between. We are all twilight people. We can never be fully labeled or defined. We are many identities and loves, many genders and none. We are neither day nor night. We are both, neither and all. May the sacred in-between of this evening suspend our certainties, soften our judgments, and widen our vision. May this in-between light illuminate our way to the God who transcends all categories and definitions. May the in-between people who have come to pray be lifted up into this twilight. We cannot always define. We can always say a blessing. Blessed are you, God of all, who brings on the twilight.
And our blessing is on page 120. Together, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu ad ner shel Shabbat. We continue with reading number 2.
We come together this Shabbat, each bringing to this sanctuary a private world of hopes, fears, and dreams. Some of us are burdened by anxieties and cares that all but crush our faith in the future. Others have hearts filled with happiness, grateful for the joys of the past week, yet aware that even the most fortunate are vulnerable before the mystery of tomorrow. Every life is a unique blending of joy and sorrow, of fulfillment and frustration.
Beneath our uniqueness, we are all bound together by our common humanity. All of us must deeply yearn for the blessings of freedom and peace. Each of us seeks the personal liberation of a mind that is not enslaved to conventional wisdom, a heart that is able to love without fear, a spirit that cries yes to the universe. Each of us strives, too, for the inner peace that comes with finding a harmony between our aspirations and our abilities. This is the Shabbat peace to which we aspire.
We continue with the singing of Shir Chadash, page 648 at the back of your Siddur. Shir Chadash, we sing a new song.
Shiru Adonai Kol Haaretz. Shiru Adonai Shir Chadash. If you didn't know it before, now you do, so sing along with us, please. Shiru Adonai Kol Haaretz. Shiru Adonai Shir Chadash. Sing unto God all the earth a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God and we'll all sing along. All the earth a new song unto God. Shiru Adonai Kol Haaretz. Shiru Adonai Shir Chadash.
We continue in your handout at the top of page 2 with reading number 3. I invite the congregation to join responsively.
In this hour of worship, we reflect upon the meaning of our lives.
I harbor within me, as we all do, a vision of my highest self, a dream of what I could and should become. May I pursue this vision.
An artist in the course of painting will pause, lay aside the brush, step back from the canvas, and consider what needs to be done. A composer pauses in the process of composition to hear what has been created. So do all of us on this Shabbat Eve pause to reflect.
As I hope to make my life a work of art, so may this hour of worship help me to turn back the canvas of life to paint the portrait of my highest self.
May our efforts to grow in moral stature bring us to the joy of achievement.
And may I always hold before my eyes the vision of perfection we call by the name of God. The Baruch Hu is our prayer where we come together in community. I invite you to rise either in body or in spirit. It is on your handout, the middle of page 2.
Yada-da-da-da, 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 yada-da-da-da. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed Le'olam Va'ed. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I
We continue with reading 4 at the bottom of page 2 in your handout.
They said pink or blue, as if that were the end of the mystery. I now know it was just the beginning. Blessed is God, whose creativity pushes the limits of human understanding. And blessed are you who bravely shows the richness of that varied talent. May the Eternal watch over and protect us. May we all be blessed with the courage to confront our own fear and prejudice, and in doing so, truly witness creation.
The Shema can be found on page 152 in your Siddur.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
Please be seated. We join together in the Ve'ahavta at the top of page 154. The Ve'ahavta is all about showing our love for God. So as we go through this prayer, think about the various ways you have every day of showing your love for God.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לעוד על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
We're at the top of page 158. Micha Mocha is a prayer that says, thank you, God, for delivering us from slavery in Egypt. We all know that each of us faces trials and challenges still in our lives today. And so Micha Mocha says, dear God, please be with me and help me as I face my trials today.
Elim Adonai Mi kamocha nehedar b'kodesh Nora tehilot oseh peleh Nora tehilot oseh peleh Malechutzecha ra'u b'anecha Okei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam Ze'elianu ve'amru Ze'elianu ve'amru Adonai yimlo le'olam va'ed Adonai yimlo le'olam va'ed. So in life we cannot plan, or we do plan, and God laughs, and we try to plan again. We try to plan the guitar strings don't break, and they break. And so on pages 160 and 161, in true Temple Habonim fashion, please join us. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Hashkivenu Leshalom. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
We continue on page 3 in our handout near the top with reading number 5. Please join responsively with us.
I praise you, source of life, who said Lech Lecha to our ancestors Abraham and Sarah. Go forth, go to yourself, go find yourself. And they left their home, the only world they knew, to begin anew in a land in a new way.
God of creation, who renews your work each day, be with me now as I step out into the world with my own new way.
God of revelation, be with me as I affirm that I move proudly through life as the strong, loving, wise, beautiful person you created me to be.
God of redemption, in coming out today in community, I fulfill the command you gave to our ancestors. Lech Lecha, go forth, go to yourself, go find yourself. And so I have for life and health, for joy and blessing.
And together in celebration, let us all say,
Amen. We continue with Tefillah, beginning on page 164 in our Siddur. This is a moment for each of us to connect with God, to connect with ourselves in the way that feels the best for us. We'll be doing several pages of Hebrew. Join in the Hebrew or use the words of your own heart. And again, those who are able, we rise for Tefillah.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Page 166, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el hagadol hagibor v'hanora el elyon gomer chasadim tovim v'koneh hakol v'zocher chastei avot v'imahot umevi geula livnei v'neihem למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה page 168 אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע מוריד הטל מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו, ינשני בר מחמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל page 170 אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. We continue in our handout at the bottom of page 3 with reading number 6.
My God, I thank you for my life, my soul, and my body, for my name, for my sexual and affectionate nature, for my way of thinking and talking. Help me realize that in my qualities I am unique in the world, and that no one like me has ever lived. For if there had ever before been someone like me, I would not have needed to exist. Help me make perfect my own ways of love and caring, that by becoming perfect in my own way, I can honor your name and help bring about the coming of the Messianic age.
And so, as we always do in worship, we offer gratitude by being grateful for all the things we have in our lives, the little things, the big things. We live richer lives. We draw closer to God.
Baruch atah Adonai, thank you, God. Baruch atah Adonai, thank you, God.
As we go through this blessing, this Chatimah, a few more times, reflect on what it is that you're feeling grateful for in the moment. Whatever you're feeling grateful for right now, just whisper it out loud. Say it to your neighbor. Say it to yourself. Say it inside of you. What you're feeling gratitude for right now.
Baruch atah Adonai, thank you, God. And as the picture gets even brighter in your mind, sing louder with us. Baruch atah Adonai, thank you, God. Baruch atah Adonai, thank you, God. Baruch atah Adonai, thank you, God.
At the top of page 4, we continue with our reading for peace. Please join responsively. Reading number 7.
We invite peace into our hearts, our relationships, and our world, reflecting on our own capacity to bring and to receive peace in ever greater measure.
What knots inside me need to be untied? What tensions keep me from a sense of peace? With whom am I in conflict at this moment? Do I want to make peace? How can I bring more tranquility and peace to my own life and into the lives of my family and community?
Open my heart, source of peace. Slow down my breathing and quiet my spirit, so that I may bring your peace into all my encounters.
May the one who makes peace on high let peace descend upon us, on all Israel, and on all the world, and let us say, Amen. I know that we have a room full of people interested in peace. I see a lot of orange, and even for the people not wearing orange, peace. Lo Yisagoy, the middle of page 4 on your handout.
Hey, oh, oh, hey, hey, oh, oh, hey, hey, Sagoyel goy cheret lo yemadu on milchama lo yesagoyel goy cheret lo yemadu on milchama. Choose either part. Sagoyel goy cheret lo yemadu on milchama lo yesagoyel goy cheret lo yemadu on milchama. English. Don't walk in front of me, I may not follow. Don't walk behind me, I may not lead. Just walk beside me and be my friend, and together we will walk in a peaceful land.
We take a few moments for our own private personal prayer. There are meditations in your handout. Use them, use the words of your own heart. Take a moment. Before we offer our prayer for healing at the top of page 6 in your handout, Heal Us Now, I invite anybody who would like to to say the names aloud of people you're holding in your heart who are in need of healing at this time. If this is a moment when you are in need of healing, be sure and say your own name too. And know that when all of the names are said together, the prayers for everyone join strength in community. Lisa and Sam and Jesse, Ron and Elena.
Rifa'inu Adonai v'nei rafeh, Hoshienu v'nei v'ashiyah, El karov lechol korav, ach karov l're'av yisho. We pray for the healing of the body. We pray for healing of the soul, for strength, flesh and mind and spirit. We pray to once again be whole. El Narefana. Oh, please heal us now. Refuat ha-nefesh, refuat ha-guf, refuat shlema. Heal us now. Heal us now. Hoshia et amecha uvarech et nachalatecha urem v'nasem al ha'olam. Mishebeirach avoteinu, Mishebeirach imotenu, Adonai Hoshiana. We pray for the healing of our people. We pray for the healing of the land, for peace for every race and nation, every child, every woman, every man. Oh, please heal us now. Refuat ha-nefesh, refuat ha-guf, refuat shlema. Heal us now. Heal us now. Heal us now.
It's so important that we offer prayers for healing. It's equally important that we celebrate our joys, our milestones, our simchas. We do that with Shehechianu, which can be found on page 648 at the back of your Siddur. Who's having a Shehechianu moment tonight that you'd like to share with us, Len? 49 years. Mazel tov. Noah and Ben, I see some hands up.
We both just got back from a birthright program in Israel. It was really outdoors. It was
10 days of birthright in Israel. Mazel tov. We'll do that. We will do that. Who else is celebrating something? Charlie. For how many? 52 years. Mazel tov. Mazel tov. Talia. Confirmation is tomorrow night, and we have 10th graders excited about that. Richard, was that a hand?
Only 50 years next Saturday.
June was clearly a time to get married. 50th anniversary next weekend. Who else is celebrating anything? Karen is. What's Karen celebrating? 25 years of marriage. Mazel tov. Yes. Your son got engaged. We're celebrating love tonight. That's a good thing. Mazel tov. Who else? Alan. And there's a big celebration this weekend. 98 years old. Mazel tov. There was another. Jim. A rainbow was in the sky driving over here tonight. That's what we call beshert. That's what we call meant to be. Yes, Esther Ruth. Len Rempler is showing work at the Imago Gallery. Mazel tov. Others? Anybody else? Maxine.
We are so grateful that you and Adam are sharing your story with us. Yes.
We are too. We are too. Thank you. Thank you. Others?
I'll just echo that. I'm so excited for tonight on its own, and I'm so excited that so many people are here. I'll have a special one I didn't get to say last week. I ran into Rabbi Rosenberg and Sandy at Eli's randomly, which doesn't happen that often, and we had a great time with Bob and Lois Kemp, just kind of hanging and taking over Eli's. Jen Boylan was in the corner. We really did take over the whole restaurant.
Well, don't be too excited about so many people here tonight, because the people who don't come here regularly think this is what every Friday night is like. So don't spoil any illusions. Okay? Anybody else? Anybody? Yes, Marissa. A new house. Great. A new house. Tom.
Our grandson graduated from high school on Wednesday, and Joanne is at her 60th college reunion.
A graduating high school son and a 60th college reunion. Mazel tov, Candace. A Sunday graduation from Barrington High and off to Johnson and Wales. Michael. A graduation from a medical residency at the end of this month. Look at what we're celebrating. There's so much. Yes. William, stand up for us so everyone can see you. We remember when you had your naming at the beach last summer. You've gotten a little bit bigger. Happy almost birthday. For all of the joys that we express out loud and for the ones we hold in our hearts, we offer words of thanks with Shehechianu. Thank you, God, for giving us life, for sustaining us, and for bringing us to this very special moment.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Amen.
Excellent. I just need a sec to put this on. Let there be lights. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
In this week's Torah portion, Bamidbar, which means in the wilderness, we find the ancient Israelites wandering in the desert for 40 years. Even though they had been set free from 400 years of bondage in Egypt, it took time to learn how to shed their internal slave mentality, how to care for themselves, how to connect with one another. They soon discovered that freedom was only the beginning of the journey, that the road to the promised land requires a lot of hard work. The Jewish people's wilderness narrative is the story of our people's struggle to be free. It is everyone's story, and it is the story of the LGBT community as well.
And with that, we want to welcome you to the 8th annual Temple Habonim LGBT Pride Shabbat. It's really wonderful to be surrounded by our community, by our family and our friends, and to also celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall Uprising. For those of you who may be less familiar with the history, the Stonewall Inn was, and still is, a gay bar in New York City. It was a popular spot in the late 60s because it was one of the only bars where same-sex couples were permitted to dance together. Police would frequently raid the Stonewall and other clubs, beating, brutalizing, and arresting the lesbian, gay men, and drag queens who gathered there. But on June 28, 1969, when the New York Police Department raided the Stonewall, that night was different. After years of oppression, the patrons rioted back against police harassment. The night exploded into chaos, and the uprising continued for several days. Many consider the Stonewall riots to be the single most important event leading to the gay rights movement.
I was 17 when the Stonewall riots happened.
I was 7. But wait, we're getting ahead of ourselves. We need to start back at the very beginning and tell you how 2 nice Jewish boys from halfway across the country found their way home to one another. There's pain, I'll tell you. There's transformation, crazy coincidences, and a look at the history of gay rights in our country. And spoiler alert, there's a lot of love, too. There's also a look back at just how much hair we both used to have.
I was born in San Antonio, Texas, in 1951. From the very beginning, I was extremely social, outgoing, and playful. I always wanted to be around people. I'm told that I cried when I was left alone. My older brother Ed and I grew up in the same house that our mom had grown up in. Our grandparents lived a few blocks away. Many aunts and uncles and cousins lived nearby, and they visited often. My parents, both assimilated secular Jews, left my grandparents' conservative shul and went to the Reform synagogue, Temple Bethel, a place where I loved being from a very early age on. Gradually, my carefree love of being with others changed as I began to sense that somehow I was different from all the other kids, especially the boys. They liked to play competitive sports outside and run around with toy guns. I played inside with my best friend Kathy. Mostly, we played with her collection of Barbie dolls. We dressed them up. We created dramatic hairstyles. And my Barbie hairdos always looked better than hers. As a kid, I had allergies and asthma. I began to spend more and more time with myself and with my dog. I loved to roll around in the grass with our dogs. I coughed, I wheezed, I didn't care. My dog was always my best friend. First Smokey, then Taffy, then Gypsy. They each loved me unconditionally, just as I was. One day, as I was talking to Gypsy, I poured out my heart to her. I remember so clearly telling her that I knew that I had a lot of love inside of me, but I just knew that I would never be able to get it out and share it with others. I cried. She licked my tears. I knew early on that I was very drawn to other boys in a different kind of way. And even though I had no language for it, I knew that that feeling was wrong and that I should never speak about it and who I really was. And so I didn't. I learned to keep it a secret. And how could I have possibly learned anything else? In 1952, the American Psychiatric Association designated homosexuality as a sociopathic personality mental disorder. Not until 1973 did they remove that label. By then, I had already lived with that societal stigma silently for 22 years.
No, come on. I was born in Philadelphia in 1962 into a loving and meshuggah Jewish family. I was the first boy, and I was their pride and joy, their little tatala. My sister Lisa preceded me. She was a loving, protective big sister. At the age of 6, we all moved a few blocks away to live with my maternal grandparents. Our weekends were spent surrounded by lots of extended family and lots of Jewish food. I grew up in a cultural soup of Judaism, mahjong, pinochle, Yiddish, cigar smoke, and lots of stories from the old country. I was a sickly, asthmatic little kid. I was never much for the outdoors. My dad tried endlessly to play ball with me, but I had no interest. All I really wanted to do was to spend time inside with my sister and bake cakes in our easy bake oven. I loved creative stuff and TV and sugary cereal. My grandmother, who we called Mom, was a larger-than-life character, and I loved to hang out with her. She loved art and music and theater and opera and big sleeves. She taught me about all of that stuff. One of my favorite things to do was to go with her to Lord & Taylor, where she would have her hair done. I would sit with her at the salon while Mr. Hirsch teased her hair into a giant balloon. Afterwards, we would head for sandwiches to the Birdcage, which was the cafe at Lord & Taylor. For a long time, I was blissfully happy, spoiled and adored in my own protected little world. But at some point, and I couldn't tell you exactly when, a feeling began to seep in that I was not okay. I, too, began to have a sense that there must be something very wrong with me because I didn't fit the typical mold of what it meant to be a boy in the early 1960s.
Adolescing in the early 60s was not fun. The word gay did not exist, but the word sissy sure did. I was an easy target for the tough guys in my mostly Latino junior high school. PE and the locker room were dangerous territory. Now, in addition to feeling different, I also began to feel at times unsafe because others knew that I was different too, and they seemed not to like it. Temple Bethel became my safe place. I loved studying Hebrew for my bar mitzvah. I loved learning the prayers. I loved being in confirmation class. I loved everything about being at Temple, especially Safety, our Temple youth group, and Aunt Jane, our youth group advisor. I had found a place where the adults and the other kids accepted me the way I was. Most of all, I loved organizing, writing, and leading Safety's creative worship services. The Temple Sisterhood gave me a scholarship to the Reform Movement's Teen Leadership Institute at Kutz Camp in Warwick, New York, for 2 weeks in the summer of 1967, where, of course, I developed a huge crush on one of the older boys who was a song leader. And still, I had no idea what crush meant. No role models, no words. Youth group, Jewish summer camp, and my developing love of Judaism gave birth to my dream of one day becoming a rabbi. I continued to feel safe and secure in the Jewish world. It's funny how many clues came my way in high school, and yet I still didn't get it. The 1960s brought a bunch of exciting new adventure films. Bond, James Bond. While the other guys and their dads were all talking about the sexy female heroines and villains and how little they wore, I was totally focused on Sean Connery. By then, I definitely knew that I was drawn to men, but I still didn't know what that meant. I still didn't know that other people felt that way. I held on to the deep-seated belief that there was something inherently wrong with me and that I'd better not let anyone know about it.
Thank you. Adolescence was not easy. By the age of 13, it became clear, very clear, that I was different from other boys. That difference was underscored by a kind of deafening silence, which left me feeling very alone. For a while, I didn't have a word for the way that I was feeling, but one of my classmates did. He muttered it underneath his breath every single time I passed him in the hallway. He would say faggot, just loud enough for me and the other kids to hear. Every time he said it, and every time I heard it, I felt a deep rush of humiliation. He beat me down with a single word. I'd tell you that I cried, but I didn't. Instead, I walled myself off from the pain. I experimented with drugs, and I numbed myself and my feelings because I hurt so badly and I felt so alone. The hallways at school became unsafe places for me, and in 8th grade, I missed half the days of school because it was just too painful to go there. Sadly, it wasn't just this kid, but our entire heteronormative culture at the time that told me that there was something wrong with being gay. Mostly our culture didn't say it with words, but instead with the absence of words. And movies and television and books and stories about other LGBT kids who felt the same way that I did. Silence is its own form of homophobia and its own kind of intolerance. When we remain silent about the rights of others, we add to the problem rather than contributing to the solution. I didn't know it at the time, but eventually it would become my mission, my work in the world, to change that.
I was 21 and graduating from college when my friend Howard Goldman, someone I had a major crush on, though I still had no idea what that meant, Howard came out to me and he told me his story. I could not believe what I was hearing. I had a visceral reaction to his words. I felt the blood rushing through my body. My head was pounding. Someone else felt this way, and he lived this way. I was terrified, excited, terrified, as I began to understand more about what being gay meant. One thing that it very clearly meant was that I had to abandon my dream of becoming a rabbi. Judaism didn't want anything to do with me as a gay individual, much less as a gay spiritual leader. No one had to tell me that. I just knew it. And I was right. I felt rejected by Judaism. I felt angry at Judaism. I knew that I needed a new direction for my life. I moved to Manhattan and I studied life drawing and sculpture at the Art Students League. I returned to Austin and I got another degree in elementary education. I moved to Houston and I taught 5th grade in an inner city school in 1974. I loved being a teacher. I loved my kids. I worked tirelessly to help them learn and achieve, to feel free and open. I played Marlo Thomas, Free to Be You and Me, again and again and again for them. Each day after lunch, they would put their heads down and I read to them. When I read The Velveteen Rabbit and Charlotte's Web and other stories like that, stories that these kids had never been exposed to, they would giggle and they would say, "Mr. Klein's crying again." During these years, I was struggling desperately to come out. Not an easy task as an elementary school teacher in a rough neighborhood in the 70s in Texas. With therapy and the love of dear friends, I was cracking open the closet door. And with that came the desire for a new profession. I wanted to be someplace where I could feel free to be me. I wanted to use my hands and create art again and be able to make a living at it. One night I was tossing and turning, trying to figure out my next steps, when suddenly I had an epiphany. I would go to beauty school and become a hairdresser. I could be social. I could be around a lot of people. I could create art on top of people's heads. I could make hairstyles again. And it wouldn't just be okay for me to be gay. People would expect me to be gay. A new career, a safe place to come out, a lot of hard work and growth with my parents. I was settling into a very sweet life. Open-mindedness and gay rights were slow coming to the South. One Saturday night, I was with a few friends at a gay bar. It was early, about 10 o'clock. All of a sudden, the lights turned on and the music stopped. And the police entered the bar. Why? Because they could. Because they needed a bit of entertainment on a Saturday night. Because they wanted to. They went around the room and they said, "We'll take you, and we'll take you, and you, and you, and me." I was one of 40 or 50 people who were taken away in paddy wagons, booked, and spent the night in jail. Those of you who know me will laugh at this. I was charged with public intoxication. The ultimate irony of that night. I don't drink alcohol. I never did drink alcohol. Thankfully, I was 100% sober and coherent, and therefore able to protect myself from the bullying, the humiliation, the attacks, which came first from the police officers, and then from the other men in the large holding cell. When my attorney and I arrived in court on the day of my trial so that I could exonerate myself, the arresting officer didn't even bother to show up, which meant that my case was thrown out. The charges were dismissed. The nightmare and the trauma never happened. I was silenced again. No, not this time. I stood up, I yelled, I demanded that the judge give me my day in court. My attorney pulled me down, told me to shut up, and be grateful that it was over. And so, life has a way of teaching us. I was getting knocked around, but I was learning. And I was becoming more comfortable with being gay. I was becoming happy that I was being gay. I loved being gay. I became an activist. and I marched proudly in many of Houston's gay pride parades. Life was getting better and better. I was having a lot of fun.
Life was getting better for me too. Thankfully, adolescence passed. Along with those challenges, I was also blessed with really good friends and a developing love of theater and art and communication. I began college, spending the first year at Temple University in Philadelphia and the second at Temple University in London. It was there that a song on the radio and an adventurous childhood friend changed the trajectory of my life. Hearing the song Marrakesh Express on the radio, we took a spontaneous excursion to Morocco. There, in a market in Marrakesh, with beams of miraculous light piercing through thatched roofs, I fell in love with photography. I returned to the States to study at the Parsons School of Design in New York, and soon after began my career as a photojournalist. While I began to find my calling, I was still searching for a path to self-acceptance. You'd think that life in New York City would be filled with streams of pride and self-love, but not so much. The homophobia that was instilled in me by our culture gripped pretty tightly for several more years. It wasn't until the age of 24 that I looked in the mirror with tears streaming down my face and uttered the words, "I'm gay," for the very first time. In June of 1986, I sat at the kitchen table with my parents. I told them what they had known unconsciously for many years. We cried, and they cried, and they said, "We love you, and we always will." I also came out into the arms of other accepting family and friends, and into an almost instantaneous longing for relationship. I also came out into the height of AIDS, thought to have hit New York City 1 year earlier in 1985. There was little government support in those days for people who contracted the virus because of the blatant discrimination against minorities, IV drug users, and gay people. Since the beginning of the AIDS epidemic, more than 70 million people globally have been infected with HIV, and about 35 million people have died of AIDS. In October of 1987, I was sent on assignment by the Village Voice to the National March on Washington for Lesbian and Gay Rights, where I made this photograph. The AIDS memorial quilt was displayed for the first time on the National Mall that weekend. For years, my mom proudly displayed this framed picture in her kitchen on the wall, next to the telephone, where everybody could see it, just as a way to say, "Look at our boy."
In 1981, AIDS invaded what was just becoming a very comfortable and safe world for me, where I had finally begun to feel at ease. From 1981 to 1990, I lived and breathed AIDS and death. With the AIDS Foundation Houston, I made weekly visits to the AIDS ward. I gave many a man his last haircut in his hospital bed. I held crying mothers who had no idea what was happening to their dying sons. I served on the Speakers Bureau, going to workplaces, churches, and schools to educate the terrified public. Someone in the office has just been diagnosed with AIDS. Will I get it from being near him? Is it okay for me to touch his phone? I think I touched a pencil that he just used. I channeled my survivor's guilt into social activism, trying to comfort the afflicted, educate the public, and alleviate their fears. I traveled with close friends to Washington, D.C. in the fall of 1988 to see the 8,228 panels of the AIDS memorial quilt displayed on the ellipse in front of the White House. We searched the panels looking for the ones we had helped to create as a way of honoring and remembering our loved ones who had died. By 1990, I had watched hundreds of my peers shrivel and die. I was empty. I felt dead inside. I was so desperate to feel alive again and feel some sort of spiritual support that I went back to Reform Judaism to see if they had changed the rules about who was welcome and who wasn't. And indeed, Reform Judaism had changed a lot in the intervening 20 years. The 2,000 family congregation near my home had a gay lesbian havurah, which was fully integrated into the congregation. I began to reestablish my relationship with Judaism, which once again began to soothe and comfort me. Soon I was planning adult ed programs and leading Shabbat morning worship services. Before long, my dream of becoming a rabbi began to resurface. I was in my 40s. Was it too late?
Things got better. As an out gay man, I began to transform my life from the inside out. I was happier in finding success in my work and a sense of purpose in my life. And then, dating. Oy. Let's just say that dating is not for the faint of heart. I met some good and kind men, but it wasn't easy. And all I really longed for was a committed monogamous relationship. My longing was accompanied by the threat of AIDS, which terrified me, because in those days, AIDS and death were synonymous. And I was not ready to die. I'd barely begun to live. My terror of AIDS, the grind of New York City, and the desire for a calmer, more spiritual life all weighed on me. Several New York friends, including my friend Aruni, who is here this evening, had moved to New England, and the lush green hills of the Berkshires captured my imagination. I decided I'd spend the summer at Kripalu, a Hindu yoga ashram in Lenox, Massachusetts. That thrilled my Jewish parents to no end. But coming out had already been a huge hurdle, so a summer of yoga and meditation, no big deal. However, when I told them that I was abandoning my career to pursue spiritual growth and stay at the ashram for 4 years, well, that took a lot of explaining. But the ashram was filled with truly spiritual seekers, and not surprisingly, many of them Jews, looking to know themselves deeply. I studied and learned and stretched and listened and really prayed for a way that God might use me and my gifts in service of something healing in the world.
Though I never thought it would happen, in 1990, HUC, the Reform Movement Seminary, had begun to admit openly gay and lesbian rabbinic and cantorial students. And with that came the possibility of actualizing my childhood dream. So I applied. When a middle-aged, gay hairdresser from Texas showed up for an interview, they were perplexed. They did not know what to do with me. They ended up telling me that I had been out of school for too long. They wanted me to go back and engage in some serious study and try again next year. That year, I radically changed my life, and I did as they had suggested. I closed my business on Friday at noon so that I could prepare for Shabbat. I no longer took clients on Saturday. I spent a month in Jerusalem learning Hebrew at an ulpan at the Hebrew University. I studied Talmud weekly with my mentor rabbi, Judy Abrams of blessed memory. The following year, I applied again. The committee's decision was unanimous and immediate. I was accepted. In the spring of 1996, I closed my business, sold my house and most of my possessions, and traveled to Israel for the first year of rabbinical school. I was actually living my teenage rabbinical dream that had been put on hiatus while I waited for the Reform movement to get ready for me. I explored all aspects of Israel with my classmates. I found solace camping in the Sinai desert. I was thrilled to begin this adventure as an out and proud gay man. For my 5 years of rabbinical school, I was visible. I studied and worked hard. I had numerous internships and jobs. And in the truest meaning of the word, it was beshert, meant to be, that at the age of 49, I was ordained as a rabbi.
With a renewed sense of clarity, I left the ashram in the summer of 1994, and right around that time, I learned about a Massachusetts law that had just been passed. It was the first in the nation mandating the creation of safe and supportive environments for LGBT students, and not a moment too soon. Statistics that year showed that 500,000 young people had committed suicide, and 30% of them were LGBT youth. An idea came sharply into focus for me. I realized I could create the images that I so longed for when I was a kid growing up. I could support the Safe Schools Initiative, and I could help other young LGBT kids. Over the next 3 years, through a series of truly miraculous events, my project, The Shared Heart, came to life. I created a series of 50 portraits and affirming stories of LGBT kids that became an exhibition, a curriculum, a nonprofit organization, and a book published by William Morrow and HarperCollins. The project visited high schools, colleges, workplaces, and places of worship all across the country. The pain of my past had been transformed into a healing possibility for gay kids today. The project was and continues to be one of the proudest accomplishments of my life. There were accolades and awards and a deepening sense of purpose, yet the one thing I longed for the most still eluded me. Having tried everything else, in December of 1997, with ultimate skepticism, I decided to go see a psychic. She told me all kinds of mishigas about my past lives in castles and kingdoms. When she was done, she asked me, "Do you have a question for me?" "Well, yes, I have a question for you," I said. "Is there a long-term relationship in my future?" I held my breath. Without hesitation, she said, "Oh, yes! Yes, love is speeding toward you. The only thing you have to do is not move."
In my final year of rabbinical school, I scored a monthly internship at Chevra of Southern Berkshire in Great Barrington, Massachusetts, working alongside Rabbi Deborah Zecker. We had such a great year. I fell in love with the congregation. They fell in love with me. They created a position for me and invited me to move to the Berkshires and work as their assistant rabbi upon ordination. I said to Rabbi Zecker, "I love being in the magical Berkshires. I would love to live here and work with you. But how can I move to this teeny town of 6,000 people in the snowed-in mountains of Western Mass and find a nice Jewish guy to date who is not a congregant?" Without missing a beat, she said, "I'll take care of that."
Life continued. I devoted myself to my career and to being a good, loving uncle. And in the meantime, 3 years passed since the psychic said that love was speeding toward me. Now, I'm a guy of faith, but really? 3 years? Still, a friend encouraged me, just keep envisioning the love you want and make a list. So I did. After all this waiting, I was not going to settle for just anyone. He would have to be smart, really smart, and kind, and funny, and loving, and gentle, and strong, and sober, and clear and deeply spiritual, handsome wouldn't hurt, and communicative, have a great smile, clear eyes, and most of all, a pure, beautiful heart. That's all. One evening, my friend Aruni invited me to go with her to temple. So I went and felt at home immediately. She had found a wonderful Reformed congregation in Great Barrington. The following week, Aruni invited me again to a meeting that she had set up with the rabbi to talk about LGBT community in the temple. At the end of our meeting, Rabbi Zecher said, I have a friend who's thinking of moving to the Berkshires. Yeah, I don't know, but I wonder if you'd get together with him and just talk with him about what gay life is like in the Berkshires. Sure, I said.
Adam and I made a date to meet at the Berkshire Coffee Roasting Company in Lenox on a Sunday afternoon. God had other plans. Snow. Lots of snow. Welcome to life in the Berkshires. Friday night services were canceled. Saturday services were canceled. The buses were canceled. But I was determined to get up there and meet this guy. We had talked on the phone. I had seen his picture. I had seen his book. I was not going to miss our first date. Sunday morning, the buses were up and running, and so was I. I wanted to meet Adam. I was excited about the shidduch that Rabbi Zecher had arranged.
Which, by the way, I knew nothing about. We met on New Year's Eve 2000. Let me tell you, he sparkled. This man with crystal clear green eyes and a beautiful smile. It was love at first sight. I knew. That evening I called my sister and told her, I met the man I'm going to marry.
I can tell you the sweater that I was wearing. I can tell you what Adam was wearing. I know where we sat. In that coffee shop, we discovered that there were many things that we shared in common, including the fact that each of us had given up refined sugar many years earlier. Mostly, I discovered the sweet neshama of this adorable guy who could melt your heart with his bubbly personality and his easily flowing tears, which still gush at the drop of a kippah. I was attracted to Adam immediately. I just wasn't as clear about being ready for a real relationship. In addition to my belief that there would never be a way for me to get my love out in the world, I had a new career, a new home, a new job. Was there room for this?
For the next half a year, we met in the Berkshires monthly while Andy came up to Hevra. Our connection grew. But being patient for Andy to finish school, prepare for ordination, move to the Berkshires, I was really being tested. One day, I ran into Rabbi Zecher in town, and out of the blue, like in a total non sequitur, she said to me with reassurance, just be patient. He runs at a slower pace, but he'll get there.
On June 1st, 2001, I moved to the Berkshires, and we began to see each other more regularly. I was still moving slowly. One day I was sick. Adam brought me lilacs, a smoothie, and chicken soup. He was melting my hesitant heart. It was working.
When Andy felt better, we went out for Japanese food one evening in Great Barrington. As we were crossing this bridge, our arms brushed, and there were sparks of electricity. And just like that, we were in a relationship.
I was living in the beautiful Berkshires, working alongside one of the most highly respected rabbis in the Reform movement. And I was dating this awesome guy. Truly, my life was changing in ways that I would have never been able to imagine. Gypsy would have been licking my face and my tears of joy with delight. On one of our earlier dates, Adam pulled out all the stops. He said, let's go to Boston and to the Human Rights Campaign Gala fundraiser dinner. And I said, sure. What he failed to mention was that there would be a few thousand people attending, with Tipper Gore as the keynote speaker, and the event was honoring, among other things, the shared heart and all the work that Adam had done for the health and the well-being of the LGBT community, and that his photos would be on display in the lobby.
In time, we planned our first proper vacation and traveled together to Paris. While Andy was planning our itinerary, I was planning something else. A friend who's a jeweler made a gold band from pieces of old family jewelry. I was so nervous. On one of our first evenings in Paris, we took a walk at sunset across the Pont des Arts, and I proposed.
I said yes. Somehow he must not have really heard me, because he asked me repeatedly during the evening, you did say yes, right?
When we chose June 28th for our wedding, we had no idea that it was the anniversary of Stonewall. We wrote and designed our own ketubah, working together diligently to make sure every space, every punctuation mark of our covenant was just right. On June 28th, 2003, we were married, witnessed and blessed by God, our community, our family and friends at Hevra, with Rabbi Zecher officiating.
At the time of our Kiddushin, our Jewish wedding ceremony, same-sex marriage was not legal anywhere in the United States, even Massachusetts.
Oops. In 2002, a half a year before our wedding, the New York Times changed its 150-year-old policy and began to include same-sex couples in their wedding announcements. In those days, listen to this. In those days, Grandpa, lesbian and gay weddings were called commitment ceremonies and civil unions because marriage for us was illegal. When the Times implemented their new policy, it felt important to us to send them our information and to be visible as the loving gay couple that we are. We were delighted when we discovered our wedding announcement in the Sunday Times the following day.
11 months later, when Massachusetts became the first state in the country to legalize same-sex marriage and add gender-neutral language to the licenses, we were married again. In the same sanctuary, under the same chuppah, by the same officiating rabbi, Adam's sister Lisa was our one witness.
We really loved our happy, idyllic life in the Berkshires, our happy, idyllic years in the Berkshires. Life was good, we were building our lives together, and we were embraced by a warm and loving community.
My 6 happy years at Hevra led me to a desire to branch out on my own and serve a congregation in a solo rabbi position. Would a congregation take a 55-year-old gay rabbi with a gay husband?
Yes.
We searched for a community that we could love and who would love us too.
We had just begun our application with Temple Habonim and decided to drive to Rhode Island to explore. We pulled into the parking lot at 165 New Meadow Road to check it out when no one was here. It was Sunday, August 6th, 2006, Adam's 44th birthday. We both had a sense instantly that we had found our home.
The last 12 years here have truly been the happiest years of our lives. We have thrived in our careers, and we know that we are loved and valued members of this community. From lives of loneliness and isolation have come lives of fulfillment and joy.
It was all worth waiting for. I wouldn't change a thing. Sometimes life speeds towards you.
And sometimes it takes its own sweet time. But if we rally and fight and stand up and tell the truth and be ourselves and look for love beyond our wildest dreams, we are here to tell you that miracles are possible and love can find its way home.
We are very grateful to share our love story and to celebrate Pride this evening. And we are also keenly aware that in many communities, LGBT people still face subtle and not so subtle forms of discrimination, and in some places, horrific persecution.
This year, in 2019, 70 countries around the world still criminalize same-sex relationships. In 26 countries, the penalty for living the lives that we do varies from 10 years in prison to stoning and death. As people of conscience, as Reformed Jews, we're obligated to take action.
Every affirming deed makes a difference. Together we can ask our kids and our grandkids about LGBT people in their schools. Ask them about bullying and teach them to stand up for others. Read books with LGBT characters. Say the words lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. Ask questions and then listen.
And then remember, when it's all said and done, this you hear is love. That's it. Just love. So may we all go together, love ourselves, and love one another for all our glorious similarities and differences. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Okay. On your handout, you have the counting of the Omer. We count the Omer between Passover and Shavuot. Shavuot's tomorrow night. We have one more day to count the Omer. For 7 weeks we've been doing this. We've been counting the days leading to a more spiritual life and helping us remember what we have to look forward to. So on page 7 of your handout, please rise as together we count the Omer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat haomer Hayom Tish'a va'arba'im Yom Shehem Shiv'a Shavuot LaOmer. Today is 49 days, which is 7 weeks of the Omer. We still have one more day to accomplish all of the spiritual goals that we have set for ourselves at this season. Let's make use of this day. Page 586, in the middle of the page, we join together in the Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם בגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Please be seated. And in the middle of page 7 on your handout, please join together with me. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rivka, Leah, and Rachel, who has blessed us with all the queer folks in our midst. Bless all of us even more, with sweetness and happiness, with full lives and success and joy in this month of Pride, the season of freedom and celebration. Through our marching in the streets, in our singing and dancing, we shall be happy and we shall bless the source of our lives as we say, Amen. Page 591. We're at the top of page 8 in your handout. Oh God, remember today our LGBTQ siblings who were martyred in years past, those murdered by fanatics in the Middle Ages, those who perished in the Holocaust, and those struck down in our own city in our own time. Remember also those who took their own lives, driven by despair by a world that hated them because of their love or gender. And in mercy, remember those who lived lives of loneliness, repressing their true natures and refraining from sharing their love with one another. O God, remember the sacrifice of these martyrs and help us bring an end to hate and oppression of every kind. Page 598. As a community, we at Temple Habonim mourn the recent loss of life everywhere due to acts of senseless gun violence, due to acts of terrorism, due to acts of natural disaster. As a community, we mourn a recent death and we recall a number of yortzites. If I say the name of someone you're remembering, I invite you to stand as you hear their name and remain standing until we join you for Kaddish. As a community, we mourn the recent death of Samuel Nelson, father of Judy Mincer, father-in-law of Michael Mincer. As a community, we recall the yortzites of Pauline Berman, mother of Maurice Berman, Violetta Arboleta, mother of Denise Glickman, Morris Brown, father of Julie Hayworth, Philip Norris, father of Vicky Carton, Sue Brown, mother of Arlene Kennedy, Alan Kranowitz, father of David Kranowitz, Rose Slit Melman, mother of Ed Melman, Sharon Namerow, wife of Larry Namerow, Gertrude Caro Parker, mother of Len Parker, Irene Shansky, grandmother-in-law of Janet Shansky, Daniel Shansky, father-in-law of Janet Shansky, Dorothy Peterson, mother of Kathy Sherman, and Maurice Aaron Leibling, father of Ann Teifeld. If there's anyone here who's mourning a recent death I did not mention, or recalling someone in the first year of mourning, or recalling a yortzeit I did not mention, I invite you to stand and tell us the name of the person you recall, who that person was to you, and then remain standing till we join you for Kaddish.
My cousin Lorraine Sharp.
Zecher Tzadik Livracha. The name of each person we recall brings blessing. We say their names, we tell their stories, we keep their spirits alive with us daily. Let's stand. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah be'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute b'chaye chon uvyomei chon uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru Yehei shemei rabbah mevorach le'olam ul'olmei olmaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudashah la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, to all the world, as together we say. Please be seated. You each have a handout. It has announcements on the back. I invite you to take that with you if you would like to. If not, leave it here. We'll make sure that it gets recycled. And your prayer books can go to the greeter who welcomed you on your way in as you make your way over to the Oneg tonight. Kiddush can be found on page 123 of your Siddur.
One of the announcements you'll see is that next week's service is at 6:15 and starts off our 6:15 services at Barrington Beach. Be sure to be there. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho v'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu Zikaron lemase Bereshit Ki hu yom tehila lemikrae kodesh Zecher letziyat Mitzrayim Ki vanu v'charta Votanu kidashta Mikol hamim V'shabbat kodshecha b'ava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Amen.
L'chaim. While we're waiting to find out what it is it, David?
It's wine.
It's wine. We really need help with motzi. Religious school students, and Niev, that includes college graduates who used to be religious school students. Please, come on forward. All of our religious school students. And if you're a student and you're not from our religious school and I don't know your name, come on up anyway, because we really need help with motzi. Here you go.
We're former members.
That's okay. That's okay. Recent college graduates are still our students. We're not letting go. Okay.
Amen.
Te'avon. Tear a piece if you want and make sure it finds its way back to the Oneg table. And when you get to the Oneg table, go on down. And when you get to the Oneg table, be sure and look for a brightly colored piece of rainbow cake.
Page 645.
Our closing song, page 645, Lechi Lach. Lechi Lach reminds us that each and every one of us has the power to be a blessing in this world. By the things we say, by the things we do, let's all go forward and bring blessing into this world that needs so much blessing.
Lechi Lach, to a land that I will show you. Lech Lecha, to a place you do not know. Lechi Lach, on your journey I will bless you. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lechi Lach. Lechi Lach. And I shall make your name great. Lech Lecha. And all shall praise your name. Lechi Lach, to the place that I will. L'simchat chayim, l'simchat chayim, l'simchat chayim, l'simchat chayim, Lechi Lach. You shall be a blessing.